Hello YouTube, this is Jay Coder back with another stream for you all, and today we're going to be adding live data to the Unscramble app. And we've been going over the Unscramble app for the last 3 streams, which was over ViewModel. And so now we're adding live data to the ViewModel in this lab, which is another important concept in Android development. So go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment on this video, and also I'm gonna go ahead and post this link to the chat in case anyone joins and follows along in the chat. They'll be good to go to see which tutorial we're going over. And if you were here for the last 3 videos and you were able to build along with us where we added the view model, you should be good to go on the code. But however, if not, there's starter code that you can download to be able to get up to speed with this code lab. So I'm gonna go ahead and post the starter code inside the chat and also in the description as well later. And so that's for you all if you would like to go ahead and download that code and follow along with us in your Android Studio project. And so I'm going to go ahead and mute the music, and without further ado, let's get started. So this code lab is use live data with ViewModel. So before you begin, you have learned in previous code labs how to use ViewModel to store the app data. ViewModel allows the app's data to survive configuration changes. In this code lab, you'll learn how to navigate live data with the data in the ViewModel. The LiveData class is also part of the Android architecture components and is a data holder class that can be observed. Prerequisites: how to download source code from GitHub and open it in Android Studio, how to create and run a basic Android app in Kotlin using activities and fragments, how the activity and fragment life cycles work, how to retain UI data through device configuration changes using a view model, how to write lambda expressions and what you'll learn, how to use live data and mutable live data in your app, how to encapsulate the data stored in a view model with live data, how to add observer methods to observe changes in the live data, and how to write binding expressions in a layout file. What you'll build: use live data for the app's data, word, and count score in the Unscramble app. Add observer methods that get notified when the data changes. Update the scrambled word text view automatically. Write binding expressions in the layout file which are triggered when the underlying live data is changed. The score, word count, and the scrambled word text views are updated automatically. What you need: a computer with Android Studio installed, solution code from the previous code lab, and then so go ahead and download the code lab where we in the previous code lab we stored data in the view model. We added the view model to the code, and so now starter app overview. This code lab uses the unscrambled solution code that you are familiar with from the previous code lab. The app displays a scramble word for the player to unscramble it. The player can try any number of times to guess the correct word. The app data such as the current word, player score, and word count are saved in the view model. However, the app's UI does not reflect the new score and the word count values in this code lab. You will implement the missing features using LiveData. What is LiveData? LiveData is an observable data holder class that is lifecycle aware. Some characteristics of LiveData. LiveData holds data. LiveData is a wrapper that can be used with any type of data. LiveData is observable, which means that an observer is notified when the data held by the LiveData object changes. LiveData is lifecycle aware. When you attach an observer to the LiveData, the observer is associated with a life cycle owner, usually an activity or fragment. The LiveData only updates observers that are in an active life cycle state, such as started or resumed. You can read more about LiveData and observation here. UI updation in the starter code. In the starter code and update next words on screen, method is called explicitly every time you want to display a new scrambled word in the UI. You call this method during game initialization and when players press the submit or skip button. The method is called from the methods on view created, restart game, on skip word, and on submit word with LiveData. You will not have to call this method from multiple places to update the UI. You will do it only once in the observer. Add LiveData to the current scrambled word. In this task, you will learn how to wrap any data with LiveData. By converting the current word in the game ViewModel to LiveData in a later task, you will add an observer to this LiveData objects and learn how to observe the LiveData. Mutable LiveData. Mutable LiveData is the mutable version of the LiveData. That is, the value of the data stored within it can be changed. In Game ViewModel, change the type of the variable current scrambled word to mutable LiveData, and mutable LiveData are LiveData and mutable LiveData classes are generic classes, so you need to specify the type of data that they hold. Change the variable type of current scrambled word to val because the value of the LiveData mutable LiveData object will remain the same, and only the data stored within the object will change. Change the backing field current scrambled word type to LiveData string because it is immutable. Android Studio will show some errors which you will fix in the next steps. Val current scrambled word LiveData equals current scrambled word. To access the data within a LiveData object, use the value property in the game ViewModel inside the getNextWord method within the else block. Change the reference of current scrambled word to current scrambled word.value. So they want us to add these to our game ViewModel. Alright, so mutable LiveData and LiveData. So we're changing the current scrambled word to val. Change the backing field to the LiveData one. Alright, so let us go to our Android Studio, and then let us go to our game ViewModel, and then in our game ViewModel, we are changing current scrambled word to oops, wrong one. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, and then go to my Android Studio, and then go to here, and then then I'm gonna go ahead and import that, and then so we should be able to successfully replace that with this, and then they want us for the backing to do the live data. So we're going to go ahead and copy this. We're going to go back to our Android Studio, and then inside our Android Studio we're going to replace this guy with this, with our live data. And then instead of this, we're going to go ahead and omit that. Then when we omit that, here is our new code for those, which implements mutable live data and live data, so that it's going to store a string inside live data. And also, like in a lot of other apps, there's a list of data, and usually if there's a list of data, there's gonna it will be like a mutable list instead of a single string. And a lot of the applications that have tables of data, basically. And anyway, so we went ahead and added that. And to access the data within a live data object, we use the value property. So change the reference of current scramble word to current scramble word.value. So we're going to do that inside our current scrambled word. So we're going to go to our Android Studio. Then we're going to go to our current scrambled word. Or we're actually going to go to let's see. So get next word. Okay, that's going to be the method that we're going to. So let's go to our Android Studio. Then let's go to our get next word method. Then we have this error here, and we're actually going to change that to dot value. So the dot value. So Android Studio, and then dot value. It's pretty much all we have to change to get the live data value. And so, all right. Attach observer to the live data object. In this task, you set up an observer in the app component game fragment. The observer you'll add observes the changes to the app's data current scrambled word. Live data is a lifecycle aware is lifecycle aware, meaning it only updates observers that are in active lifecycle state. So the observer in game fragment will only be notified when the game fragment is in started or resumed state. In game fragment, delete the method update next word on screen and all the calls to it. You do not require this method as you will be attached to an observer to the live data. In the onSubmit word, modify the empty if else block as follows. The complete method should look like this. So we're going to go ahead and delete this method inside our game fragment because we no longer need it since the observer is going to be handling the updates instead of this method. So we're going to go back to our Android Studio. Then we're going to go to our game fragment. And then inside our game fragment, we're going to search for the method update word on screen. And we're going to actually go ahead and delete this method because it's no longer needed, since we're going to make a let's see. So we're going to make a observer. So I'm just going to delete this guy right here. And then I'm going to find the references to it. So we're no longer using it here. And 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 now it's completely gone. Now, it says, in the onSubmit word, modify the empty if-else block as follows. The complete method should look like this. So we're going to go to our onSubmit word method inside our Android Studio, inside our fragment, and we're going to go to the declaration, and the body is here. And inside the body of onSubmit word, we're going to do the changes, which is so we're going to add this code to we'll just go ahead and add the code that they want to the onSubmit word. And then inside the onSubmit word, we're going to actually change it like that. And so this is the new changes that they told us to make. And then it says attach an observer for current scramble word live data and game fragment at the end of the callback on view created. Call the observe method on the current scrambled word. So we are adding this guy after, or it says, yeah. So attach the an observer at the end of the callback. So we're looking for on view created, and we're going to attach this observer at the end. So and that's going to be inside our game fragment, inside our Android Studio, and it's going to be inside the on was it the on? It was inside the on view created. On view created. Alright, so here's the on view created. And then at the bottom of on view created, we're going to add the observer. And so we have the observer added here. No value passed for perimeter. So Android Studio will display an error about a missing perimeter. You'll fix the error in the next step. Pass view lifecycle owner as the first parameter to the observer method. The lifecycle owner represents the fragment's view lifecycle. The parameter helps the live data to be aware of the game fragment lifecycle and notify the observer only when the game fragment is in active states, started or resumed. Add a lambda as a second parameter with the new word as a function parameter. The new word will contain the new scrambled word value. So we're going to add this to our observer. So we're going to go to our Android Studio, and then we're going to pass that as a parameter, the lifecycle owner, and the new word here. And when you see an arrow, it's going to be a lambda. A lambda expression is an anonymous function that isn't declared, but is passed immediately as an expression. A lambda expression is always surrounded by curly braces. So you'll always see the curly braces with the arrow. If you see those two things, you can be assured it's going to be a lambda expression. In the function body of the lambda expression, assign new word to the unscrambled word text view. So, alright, so here we're going to assign this to the binding, the unscrambled word text equals that. So pretty much inside this function, we're going to add that. So inside our Android Studio, we're going to go ahead and assign that to this. And so inside our lambda expression, and then it says compile and run app. Your game app should work exactly as before, but now the scrambled word text view is automatically updated in the LiveData observer and not in the update next word on screen method. So we're going to go to our Android Studio, and then inside our Android Studio we're going to go ahead and run it. And then when we go ahead and run it, it's going to bring up our emulator. And then inside our emulator, we're going to check and see if the app is running the way it should be since we added these changes. Okay, so can't skip. And also, we didn't implement the changing of these labels yet. However, we should have logging from last time to show us, boom, word count has been updated. And so let's see. So this word is it um, skip. And skip. Skip. Um, and this. Nope. Skip. 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 Your score was 0. So let me go ahead and also see if we can ooh, that's interesting. We get a crash there. So the crash is related to the dialog box, but I think that crash is an unforeseen side effect or an unforeseen bug for related to this code lab. So that particular bug, they don't really. I doubt they really accounted for that. But in like a real life app, we would have to fix that. But since we're doing this code lab, I don't think they are emphasizing to necessarily fix that. But what I was trying to do is basically when we okay, first of all, when we go to our logcat, it actually shows the score and word count. So when we change the actual orientation, okay, so this guy, is this set to orientation change? Auto rotate should be on. That's it's kind of odd that it's not wanting to auto rotate. Let me try a different emulator. So instead of that emulator, I'm going to go to my device manager. And then it was this Pixel 2. So I'll just try this guy instead. Or actually, we can try that guy from, well, we can try another guy up here. Or, well, I'll select him right there. And I'll go ahead and play that. And then once this is played, I want to check the orientation, or check if I can rotate it. Okay, auto rotate should be on. Alright, skip. And this one's run. And this one's probably like minute. Now, let me, ooh. Okay, so yeah, auto rotate is on, so. Alright, so it successfully auto rotated. And what I wanted to show you guys from that auto rotate is when it auto rotates, it actually, let me see something here. Okay, I auto rotate it back. Okay, so, oh, sorry about that. So here it was disconnected, and so, okay, so great. So what I wanted to show you guys is when I change orientation, you can see that the values are saved, such as the score and the word count. They are saved correctly, like such as the score is 5, and or I'm sorry, the score is 40, and we went through 5 words so far, and it shows that, you know, after the game fragment is destroyed and then recreated, it persists this data because it's stored in the ViewModel as live data, and live data is observed to be able to automatically update when the values are changed. So as you can see, it will print out these statements. So if I skip one more, then you should see, once I change the orientation and it destroys it, that should update to 6 to make sure it is working correctly. So, okay. So great. That did update to 6. So, yeah, we just needed to debug a few weird nuances there, but alright, so it looks like we're working great so far. And so let us go back, and I'm gonna go ahead and close this guy, and then says 6, attach observer to score and word count. In the previous task, in this task, you will add live data to the other data in the app, score, and word count so that the UI is updated with correct values of the score and word count during the game. Step 1. Wrap score and word count with live data. In game ViewModel, change the type of the score and current word count class variables to val. Change the data type of the variables score and current word count to mutable live data and initialize them to 0. Change the the backing field to live data. So basically, we're going to be updating this to implement the live data. So we're going to go back to our game view model here. And then inside our game view model, we're going to go to, they wanted us to update the score and current word. And so here at the score and current word, we're going to paste the live data enhancements. And so this is what it should be now. And then since we modified that, we'll have some errors. In game view model, at the beginning of the reinitialize data method, change the reference of underscore score and underscore current word count to underscore dot value and underscore current count dot value. And so inside our Android Studio, we're going to go to reinitialize data, and then inside reinitialize data, instead of just calling it like that, we're going to call it call.value so we can access it from the live data. And also the same with this guy. Alright. And probably the same with this guy. Well, actually, let's see what they say. Score plus equals. So in the game view model, inside the next word method, change the reference current word count to current dot value not. Interesting. Usually they tell you to stay away from using the double not, but I guess in this case they permit it, but try not to make the double not practice, because the double not forces this to be of a forces it to access this variable even if it's null. So it's banking on the fact that this value is not null, and so basically with the not you get crashes because the variable is trying to be accessed when it is null, basically. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and update that, in this case, in the next word method. So we're going to go into our Android Studio, and then we're going to go into the next word method. And so, so was it the next word method? So go back to our Android Studio. And then we're going to go to next word, our next word method. And then we're going to change this guy to the not. And then we're going to keep that the same. And then it says, in the game ViewModel, inside the increase score and get next word method, change the reference of score and current word score to .value and current score .value. Respectfully, Android Studio will show you an error because underscore score is no longer an integer. It's live data. You will fix that in the next steps. Use the plus Kotlin function to increase the score value, which performs the addition with null safety. Alright, so inside the increase score, we are going to refactor the code. Instead of simply doing this, we have to account for the live data and use the plus for the null safe way to do this. So we replace that code with that. And then it says, similarly, use inc, probably short for increment, Kotlin function to increment the value by 1 with null safety. So we're incrementing the value by 1 with null safety inside the get next word function. So inside the get next word function, we are replacing this guy, or wait, so is it that guy, right? Yeah, we are replacing this guy with that instead. Alright, so in game fragment, access the value of score using the value property. Inside show final score dialog method, change ViewModel.score to ViewModel.score.value. So inside our game fragments, we're going to have to change where we access the score, the ViewModel.score.value inside the show final score dialog. So inside our Android Studio, we're going to go to our game fragment. And then inside our game fragment, we're going to go to where it says show final score. And then where it says show final score, we are updating it to .value since we updated it with the live data enhancements. And since it's a live data, we have to access the integer inside the live data by saying .value, because score is a live data. And then inside that live data is the integer. And then All right, now that is fixed, and then it says step 2, attach observers to score and word count. In the app, the score and word count are not updated. You will update them in this task using LiveData observers. In game fragment, inside the onViewCreated method, delete the code that updates the score and word count text views. So inside our game fragment, we're going to be removing binding.score.text and the line under it. So inside our Android Studio, let me go ahead and copy this. And inside the Android Studio, then we're going to go to fragment. Then we're going to search for binding.score.text. And then, so it wanted us to, inside the onViewCreated, delete those two. So we're going to go ahead and delete these two. And then says in the fragment at the end of onViewCreated method, attach observer for score. Pass in the view lifecycle owner as the first parameter to the observer and a lambda expression for the second parameter. Inside the little lambda expression, pass the new score as a parameter, and inside the function body, set the new score to the text view. So inside that, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then it said to add this to the end of the onViewCreated method. So at the end of the onViewCreated method, we are going to add an observer to the score. So it's going to be similar to how we did this with the current scrambled word. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And so now, at the end of the onViewCreated method, attach an observer for the current word count LiveData. Pass in the view lifecycle owner as the first parameter to the observer and a lambda expression for the second parameter. Inside the lambda expression, pass the new word count as a parameter, and in the function body, set the new word count along with the max number of words to the text view. So inside this, we are going to do also the same technique as what we did with the score for the current word count. So that's the same thing. All right, now the new observer will be triggered when the value of score and word count change inside the ViewModel. During the lifetime of the lifecycle owner, that is, the game fragment. Run your app to see the magic. Play the game through some words, score and word counts and word count are also updated correctly on the screen. Observe that you are not updating these text views based on some conditions in the code. The score and current word count are live data, and the corresponding observers are automatically called when the underlying values change. So, alright, let us go back to our application, and the application should be ready to run. So we're going to go ahead and run it. And then we're going to go ahead and play through the game and see if it works properly. Alright, so unscramble the word using all the letters. Gonna go ahead and skip. Boom. 2 out of 10 words. Gonna go ahead and submit that. Boom. Score updated. 3 of 10 words. Perfect. Now, both of these are updating as intended. So, score of 40. Alright, it looks like it is working properly. And now, let us go on. Alright, 7. Use LiveData with data binding. In the previous task, your app listens to the data changes in the code. Just 1 second. Let me go ahead and close this guy. And then going on, similarly, apps can listen to the data changes from the layout with data binding. When an observable live data value changes, the UI elements in the layout it's bound to are also notified, and the UI can be updated from within the layout. Concept data binding. In the previous code labs, you have seen view binding, which is one-way binding. You can bind views to code, but not vice versa. Refresher for view binding. View binding is a feature that allows you to more easily access views in code. It generates a binding class for each XML layout. An instance of a binding class contains direct references to all views that have an ID on the corresponding layout. For example, the unscramble app currently uses view binding, so the views can be referenced in the code using the generated binding class. Then the example bind.text view unscrambled word.text, and okay. Alright, so using view binding, you can't reference the app data in the views layout files. This can be accomplished using data binding. Data binding library is also part of Android Jetpack library. Data binding binds the UI components in your layout to data sources in your app using a declarative format, which you will learn later in the code lab. In simpler terms, data binding is binding data from code to views, plus view binding views to code. Example using view binding in UI controller is bind. So this is an example here. So in the layout file, this is what you would put. The above example shows how to use the data binding library to assign app data to the view widget directly in the layout file. Note the use of curly brackets, syntax, and the assignment expression. The main advantage of using data binding is it lets you remove many UI framework calls in your activities, making them simpler and easier to maintain. This can also improve your app's performance and help prevent memory leaks and null pointer exceptions. Step 1. Change the view binding to data binding. In the bind.gradle module file, enable data binding, the data binding property under the build features section. And so in the build features section, we're going to say view binding equals true. So, or I'm sorry, it says replace this with this. So instead of the view binding, we're going to do the data binding. So do a Gradle sync on that. Alright, so we're going to change the view binding to data binding. So we're going to go ahead and go to our Android Studio. And then we're going to go to our module Gradle file. And then inside our module Gradle file, we're going to find the view binding under the build features. And then under the build features, we're going to go ahead and replace it with that. And then we're going to go ahead and sync it. All right, and that has been synced. And so to use to use data binding in a Kotlin project, you should apply the Kotlin capped plugin. This step is already done for you in the build.gradle module file. So in order to use this, we need the Kotlin capped, which it should already be there by what it is saying. So we go to our Android Studio, and then inside our Android Studio, we go to Kotlin capped, and then inside the Kotlin capped, we see that it's already there, so we're good to go. It's under plugins in the module Gradle. So above steps auto-generate a binding class for every layout XML file in the app. If the layout name is activity_main, then your AutoGen class will be called activity, like a camel case, main, binding. So notice that each letter, or I'm sorry, each word is capital. So activity main binding. Step 2, convert layout file to data binding layout. So it says data binding layout files are slightly different and start with the root tag layout, followed by an optional data element and a view root element. This view element is what your root would be in a non-binding layout file. Open game_fragment.xml and select code tab. To convert the layout to the data binding layout, wrap the root element in a layout tag. You'll also have to move the namespace definitions. The attributes that start with XML and S : to the new root element. Add add this tags inside the layout tag above the root element. Android Studio offers a handy way to do this automatically. Right-click on the root element scroll view and select Show Context Actions, Convert to Data by Binding Layout. So, to convert to data binding layout, we are going to go to our game.fragment, and then inside our game.fragment, we're going to hit this code tab, and then inside this code tab, it said we can highlight this root element scroll view, and then right click on that, and then after we right click on that, what do we do? So show contacts actions, convert to data binding layout. So inside our Android Studio, we're going to right click on that, show context actions, and then the first one, convert to data binding layout. So boom, it converted our fragment to be able to use the data binding. So your layout should look something like this. In game fragment, at the beginning of the on create view method, change the instantiation of the binding variable to use data binding. So inside our game fragments Kotlin file, we're going to go to our onCreate view, and then inside our onCreate view, we're going to change the instantiation of the binding to this. So we're going to our Android Studio, and then inside our Android Studio, we're going to our game fragment inside our Kotlin file, and then inside the onCreate, it says we are changing the binding initialization to this, which is already there. Oh, I'm sorry. We are replacing this guy with this guy instead. So instead of this guy, we are replacing it with this guy. And apparently it's using this data binding util. And so instead of initializing the binding with this one, we are initializing the binding with this one, so that we can use the data binding feature. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And let's go back. So compile the code, and you should be able to compile without any issues. Your app now uses data binding, and the views in the layout can access the app data. So inside our Android Studio, let's go ahead and play it to see if everything compiles like it is supposed to. It's loading. Alright, everything compiled like it's supposed to. And the game is still working. So our changes did work. Alright. We're getting closer to the end, but I'm gonna leave these final few steps for next time. And so, alright, so we're gonna leave off right here, and thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to stay subscribed so that you can be able to see when the next video will come out of when we finish this. And so, all right, I encourage you all to stay coding, and until next time,